The path of solitude is foreboding, but is it the only way? Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we're here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in the poetry discussion playlist here on the channel, now over 750 videos strong. We are here to talk about a poem called To a Waterfowl by William Cullen Bryant, and it is a poem that is perhaps, would you say, maybe stereotypical of poetry? It's about a bird. It's about solitude. It's about being different. I think that those three things, I mean, you could substitute bird for flower and you'd be on the same page. But I think those three elements are kind of what you would expect maybe 80% of poetry to be about. To a Waterfowl by William Cullen Bryant reads as such. Whither midst falling dew, while glow the heavens with the last steps of day, far through their rosy depths dost thou pursue thy solitary way. Vainly the fowler's eye might mark thy distant flight to do thee wrong, as darkly seen against the crimson sky, thy figure floats along. Seek'st thou the plashy brink of weedy lake or marge of river wide, or where the rocking billows rise and sink on the chafed ocean side? There is a power whose care teaches thy way along the pathless coast, the desert and illimitable air, lone wandering, but not lost. All day thy wings have fanned, at that far height, the cold, thin atmosphere, yet stoop not, weary, to the welcome land, though the dark night is near. And soon that toil shall end. Soon shalt thou find a summer home and rest, and scream among thy fellows. Reeds shall bend soon o'er thy sheltered nest. Thou art gone, the abyss of heaven hath swallowed up thy form, yet on my heart deeply hath sunk the lesson thou hast given, and shall not soon depart. He who, from zone to zone, guides through the boundless sky thy certain flight, in the long way that I must trace alone, will lead my steps aright. So there's two stanzas, I think, that really stand out here. From what it is that we are to take from this poem, these two stanzas. Now, there is an old proverb. I'm not going to get it right. I think it is an African proverb, but it's something along the lines of go faster alone, go further together. Faster alone, further together is sort of the proverb as it has been distilled down. It is a very well-known proverb, as I understand, in the startup community, business startups, right? Things like that, because the democratization of a business will slow it down. But I think that this holds true in life itself. I think that if you are meaning to do something, if there is something that you have your heart set upon, a chapter of loneliness really does help. A chapter of loneliness that puts you through the paces of not only solitude, but the responsibility of every decision is something that is formative for trying to get something done, trying to get anything done. Hemingway often said that and I'm going to get this wrong too, the only man lonelier than the suicide is the writer. Writers do something. They do a thing. They write. They make a book. They write a short story. They create a poem. There's no room for democracy in that. It is authoritarian. It is totalitarian. It is one person doing the work there. It is one person responsible for every decision made along that way. But I don't think that this is true only for writers. I don't think that this is true only for startup businesses, startup companies, software companies. AI companies, that we are starting to see more and more of. I think that really this is true for everything in life. Faster alone, further together. Once it is that this thing, whatever this thing is that you have started, starts or is in its infancy, it is incumbent upon the loner to do the heavy lifting. Once that vision is carved in stone, is etched in stone, then I think you can incorporate others, but that vision has to be steadfast. Um, and soon shall that toil end. Soon thou shalt find a summer home, a hummer sown. Soon thou shalt find a summer home and rest, and scream among thy fellows. Reeds shall bend soon o'er thy sheltered nest. This is the waterfowl having finished his work. Now, what we have here is a poet talking, right? What we have here is a writer doing the writer thing, being alone, but it is no accident, it is no happenstance that the speaker here has identified with this bird on its lonely journey. He who from zone to zone guides through the boundless sky thy certain flight in the long way that I must trace alone, will lead my steps aright. The speaker here is inspired by the lonesome toil of the bird. But that lonesome toil of the bird is not just to the ends of lonesomeness. The lonesome toil of the bird is to be in that summer home, is to be with his friends screaming as the reeds bend overhead. How do we recognize that turning point in our own lives? How do we take the step back and say, okay, the lonely chapter is closed. The lonely chapter is over. I have done this thing alone for as long as it will be fruitful. Now that I've gone fast, how do I go far? There is surprisingly, to my experience, surprisingly few resources for that knowledge, for that turn, for that step from the lonesome path to the fruitful ever after. Why is that? Why is that? Why is there so much that we can read about the lonesome chapter, but so little that we have to recognize when the lonesome chapter ends? Part of me wonders, part of me really does wonder this. Part of me wonders this every day. Is there a point where the lonesome chapter becomes itself the book? I think that you can get lost. I think that you can be irretrievable. I think that there is a point where this lonesomeness, where this individuality becomes irredeemable. Is that all that bad a thing? I think there is a point where you cannot come back to society, where you have been gone so long. You are an alley cat. You are a tomcat. You are an outdoors cat. You cannot be welcomed back into the home. I wonder if the reason we have so many examples of the lonely chapter in literature and so few chapters of the retraceable individual in literature is that so few people do come back. Is that worrisome? Is that person who has been on his or her own long enough unable to go back? And what does it mean? Is there a mechanism in us, a social mechanism that can be flipped off, that can be broken off at the stem and does not regrow? I think probably. That is true. And there's, to my experience, nothing telling us once that Rubicon has been crossed. There is nothing letting us know, hey, you do this one more month and there's no going back. you're not going to find the path back. You have strayed too far into the wilderness. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on the channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one. Or do I? This is a lonesome path, right? We can be alone together.